Hello, and welcome to today's webinar, Moving Beyond QuickBooks for Multi-Entity Management. I'm Bob Shaga with Sage Intacct. Thank you for choosing to spend some time with us today. Our agenda today is this. First, we'll look at why entities matter and why consolidation is important. Then we'll look at what signs you may have to let you know that your organization has outgrown QuickBooks' ability to manage multiple entities. I'll share a real-life example of a QuickBooks user who moved to Sage Intacct and the benefits they saw. We'll walk through a demonstration of how you can easily manage multiple entities using Sage Intacct. Then I'll share with you the benefits you can expect using Sage Intacct for multi-entity consolidation and management. And lastly, we'll answer questions and let you know where you can find more information. So let's get started. So why do entities matter and why is consolidation important? First, let's level set on what we mean by an entity. A company or organization that functions as a single legal entity, whether it's in the same location or a different location, is what we consider an entity in Sage Intacct. A single entity might also be used to isolate an asset or group of assets for liability purposes, something we often see in asset management organizations. A business that has a single location but has transactions taking place in diverse areas or using different currency may want to set up discrete financial entities to better track how one region is doing compared with another region. An organization with multiple currencies may want to compare these with one another. Entities may have the same chart of accounts or different charts of accounts. Your definition of an entity may vary, but essentially it's a logical grouping of operations that allow you to compare one with another so you can make strategic, data-driven decisions at a more granular level, while allowing you to roll up results. Our experience tells us that once a company has multiple entities, it adds new entities at a rate of 2 or 3 per year. I'll go out on a limb and posit that you're here because your organization has more than 2 entities. If you're using QuickBooks for multi-entity management, chances are you're lacking visibility, doing a lot of manual work, and dealing with a lengthy close. So here's some questions to ask yourself. Are you doing 40% or more of your reports using spreadsheets outside of QuickBooks? Are executives unable to see across multiple entities using a single instance of QuickBooks? Do you have to sign into each entity to view or enter transactions? Do you manually identify and eliminate inter-entity transactions? Does it take several hours or even several days to complete your consolidations? Does it take 10 or more days to close the books? I'll go back out on that limb and bet you said yes to most, if not all, of these questions. And I'm happy to tell you that Sage Intacct delivers up to 80% faster closes and reduces consolidation times by as much as 99%. That may sound extreme, but these are real results we've seen from our customers. So here's a real-life example of a former QuickBooks user who switched to Sage Intacct. Based in Phoenix, Arizona, StarCorp is a franchisee. The company operates 144 quick-serve restaurants in Arizona, Texas, and the Midwest. So that's 144 entities. Using QuickBooks, the company had to manually reconcile every location since there was a separate set of books or file for each. They were exporting the data to Excel, which in and of itself was time-consuming. Enter Sage Intacct. Now, rather than a manual bank reconciliation monthly, StarCorp does single daily reconciliations that cover all the locations, which saves the company 20 hours per month. In addition, the accounting team saves 8 hours per pay period on payroll, as data is automatically exported from payroll into Sage Intacct with no manual work needed. Time spent managing vendor bills has been cut from 4 hours a week to 15 minutes, and StarCorp is saving another 90 minutes a month with recurring bills. StarCorp controller Cesar Elizondo estimates that the company has avoided the cost of 2 full-time colleagues who would otherwise be needed to handle all the financial information. More importantly, Elizondo reports that more efficient accounting has freed time for reporting and analytics, leading to greater transparency and more informed decisions. In his words, the benefits from Sage Intacct have been the real-time data being instantaneous so that we can get to the information we need and improving workflow processes so you're not bogged down by the day-to-day stuff. StarCorp uses Sage Intacct dimensions to break out in-store maintenance by urgent and low-priority items, with a scheduled weekly report delivering visibility into cost versus budget. Cash management is streamlined as well, with a forward-looking view at financials, not the rear-view mirror look of the past. Reporting in Sage Intacct supports data-driven decisions on whether to keep a restaurant open as the end of the lease approaches and whether to expand in a given area with a new restaurant. This is the richest benefit of moving away from QuickBooks to a robust financial management platform. The company can make strategic decisions based on input from the finance team. Let me show you how multi-entity management works in Sage Intacct. In this demo environment, we've got a multi-entity company. This example company works with security systems, but it could be any kind of company like services, software, healthcare, and so on. Let me point out some of the general items on this screen. First of all, I have 4 entities, and this shows in some of the reporting that goes into the different locations. By looking at this button that says top level, I know I'm at the top level right now. I can drop into any of these companies from here. What you're seeing right now at the top level is the consolidated view of the financials across all of these entities. I'll show you how I navigate to each entity. I just drop down here and select the Texas entity. The system opens a new tab with the same dashboard and with the same performance cards. Only now we're only looking at the metrics for the Texas entity. Can people working at the other entity do accounting for that entity? If I'm working in Texas, can I do the accounting in Texas, or does someone at the top level have to do that accounting? You can create users at the entity level, like Texas. For example, people in the Texas office can log in to just the Texas entity and do accounting for that entity. They wouldn't see any of the other entities or locations, and then at the top level, we can see everything rolled up. What if I have companies with different charts of accounts, like companies in countries with strict charts of account guidelines? What I've shown you so far is a company where each entity has a shared chart of accounts. So we're continuously consolidating and looking at information as it rolls in. If you have a company that's more global, or you have different charts of accounts for one reason or another, maybe for government requirements, or maybe you inherited charts of accounts through acquisition, you would use Sage Intacct Global Consolidations. Jumping over here to Global Consolidations, you see that at this top level, I have entities in multiple countries around the world. They're even running in different currencies. I can select Global Consolidation, where I can see my global organization displayed in a tree format. By clicking on Consolidations, I can consolidate just this group, or I can choose US dollars, which is the base currency for this company, and consolidate all my entities. I can roll them all up to my base currency, US dollars, for the period, and they'll roll up to this top-level entity, where I can analyze financial information in a single chart of accounts. I can look at and run reports against this consolidation, even though these companies all have different charts of accounts. They're all mapped to this top one. It only takes a few seconds or minutes to run, depending on the amount of data being consolidated. We have companies running global consolidations on a daily basis, and some on an hourly basis during their end-of-period close. So what are the benefits of using Sage Intacct as compared with QuickBooks? As we've discussed, Sage Intacct vastly simplifies life when you have multiple entities. This gives you a rock-solid financial core without having to rely on spreadsheets and a lot of manual work. Everything is always up to date, and it's easy to switch back and forth between local and consolidated views. This makes consolidation a snap, and if you're at all concerned about GAAP compliance, rest assured that every transaction is recorded and time-stamped, making all transactions fully auditable. This is something that QuickBooks does not offer. Multiple instances are a drain on time. With QuickBooks, you have multiple logins, and data is siloed. Each entity has its own database, vendors, customers, etc. to administer, and its own chart of accounts, so consolidations and eliminations are manual processes. Most importantly, the improved visibility and reporting in Sage Intacct allows business leaders to make strategic, data-driven decisions. This is what separates finance leaders from finance followers. Finance leaders using Sage Intacct have information at their fingertips and can answer the hard questions with relative ease. If you're struggling with the question that business leaders are asking, then your role is reactive. This is not a space you want to occupy. 80% of our customers switching from QuickBooks wish they had done it sooner. So let's get to your questions. Here's a question. How is Sage Intacct deployed? So let's start with how QuickBooks is deployed. QuickBooks started with an on-premise software package. You'd purchase a license and a copy of software and install it on a machine. Over time, QuickBooks has added an online model, but there are some differences between QuickBooks Desktop, Enterprise, and Online. Sage Intacct is a cloud-native service. It always has been. It was built on the cloud from the ground up. The application lives in the cloud on our servers and gives you anytime, anywhere access with greater than 99.9% uptime. Your data is secured at a level usually available only to the largest enterprise companies. Here's another question. What do you see as the biggest benefits QuickBooks users see when moving to Sage Intacct? Well, the biggest benefit people tell me they've seen, or at least the most frequent thing they talk about with me, is visibility. They can get up-to-the-minute information across their entire organization and report on that information in a way that matches their business needs. Sage Intacct has, it's more than 100 standard reports, and it's easy to build on this library by creating custom reporting with unlimited dimensions. The second thing people tell me about is the process automation they've put to work in their organization. Whether it's reducing manual entry in procurement or order management or payroll, or eliminating error and overhead. Days sales outstanding seems to be a common metric people see improvement in, some reporting as much as 60% or more. And this, of course, leads to significant cash flow improvements. Here's a question about integration. What services does Sage Intacct integrate with? That's a great question, though the answer may not be as straightforward as you might hope. One of the big differences QuickBooks switchers discover is our modern cloud APIs that allow tight integrations with services like Salesforce and Bill.com. We have an active and growing partner marketplace, and we make it easy for our users to find integrated applications to further extend the success of the cloud. Everything from purchasing and order management to tax to time and expense. You can find a complete list of our marketplace partners on our website. Our open APIs also connect with services that aren't in our marketplace. An insurance claim company that I recently spoke with has an integration between Sage Intacct and their own service that captures and shares industry-specific or insurance-specific data that they use in their invoices. Several software customers track and report customer usage back to their Sage Intacct financials. We've had some great questions today.